welcome to another episode of Panel on Panels, the podcast about all things comics and comics related. I'm your host, John Campbell. Joining me as always, my co-host, Mike Ergoni.
Greetings.
And Mr. Donovan Eilert.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
All right. We're doing another one of these, I guess.
Another one of these, the podcast that we do every week?
Yeah, this is still going. I think people are amazed. It's still going, right?
I know I am.
I can't believe it.
My dentist is.
Nobody's shut us down yet. We haven't gotten any letters. Nobody's
Is that knocking
kicked
at the
in
door? I think I hear knocking at the door. Let me go check.
Here we go.
Yeah, they say shut it down.
All right. Well, that's the end of this.
They're wearing sunglasses and it's dark outside.
You know, you can't question their fashion choices.
All right.
Well, that's how you know they're official.
Okay.
No, we are still talking about comics, and today we're talking about something that's kind of permeated comics for almost since their inception, really.
A long, long time.
Which for almost as long as there have been superheroes, there have been sidekicks to those superheroes.
Sometimes, unfortunately, yes.
It's true. If we go back to... Was Robin the first? I feel like
Bucky was the first.
No, Robin was before Bucky.
Was Robin before Bucky?
Sure.
Oh.
I'm no expert.
I think so. Cap was created in what, like the 40s?
Yeah.
Early 40s, World War II era. Robin was 1939, I believe.
Okay, well.
Because Batman only existed for 1 year without Robin.
Oh, really?
1938, and then I will go to the internet to prove this, but I believe...
Save us, Dr. Internet.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that... Robin was... I have to type this now, which is always...
I wonder why they felt
they...
they needed a sidekick for him.
Almost immediately.
Because Superman didn't have a sidekick then.
Yeah.
Well, I think they figured this guy's got no superpowers. He needs a small child backing him up.
So, Detective Comics number 27
Sure.
was the first appearance of Batman. Detective Comics number 38 is the first appearance of Robin.
Wow.
So less than a year, 11 issues in,
Dang.
and they're like, we need a character.
We need a spunky boy sidekick.
Yeah, I believe, and I may be completely wrong about this. I believe he was given to Batman so he has somebody to talk to a certain extent. Also, then on two fronts, you've got Batman now has somebody to talk to, and you've got somebody that the kids can put themselves in. You know,
Yeah, no.
I'm a kid reading this. I'm Robin.
That is not a life you want, kids.
If only my parents were murdered at the circus.
It's basically Annie if Daddy Warbucks forced Andy to also fight crime.
So
Wait, hold on.
So way better.
So it's just Annie.
Just Annie.
What productions of Annie are you seeing?
It's the
best
subtext.
ones.
Yeah.
It's the subtext.
It's in there.
I saw the new one with Rose Byrne.
It's all about. That's what it is. That was the big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
With Rose Byrne. Hang on, I love that. That's immediately what you jump to.
That's the star of that movie.
This is the Rose Byrne Annie.
Yeah.
So I think right off the bat we got to talk about him then. Robin.
Yeah.
And even him is a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say him, John.
It's what
There's been some hers.
There have been some hers, but what I'm saying is beyond. Robin's become a mantle now,
Yeah, definitely.
a legacy character to a certain extent.
And that's interesting, especially considering the character of Robin has grown more and more distant from Batman. Like, it's become its own distinct entity as opposed to just like Batman and Robin, which will always be a thing.
Yeah, I mean that's never going to go away. It is.
But
Batman
now we have
and
like
Robin.
Tim Drake being Red Robin.
Well, I mean, then you start to get into this thing: is he even still Robin if he's Red Robin? 'Cause
Right.
then, and who's Robin now? I don't know. Is Damian back?
Damian's back and he's got weird magic powers, doesn't he?
Okay. I'm clearly not reading those books. Yeah, so you've got. I mean, obviously, we start with Dick Grayson, the original. The golden boy of Robins to a certain extent. I feel like you're never going to get anybody that's going to match Dick. He was the first son.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Drake's always going to be my Robin. I really like his gumption in terms of like he didn't wait around for Bruce Wayne to like need a sidekick. He went out to Bruce Wayne and was like, "I'm your sidekick.
Yeah.
I tracked you down and figured this shit out. Get up off your pouty butt. Jason Todd's not going anywhere. He's pretty dead. He'll probably never come up again."
Certainly not. You'd have to be crazy to bring him back.
Right.
But so Tim Drake, that's your definitive.
That's my Robin. Yeah.
I'm still in the Dick Grayson camp. Although
See, I like Tim Drake, but only because then that allows Dick Grayson to be Nightwing.
Yeah.
Which I love Nightwing. I mean,
Dick Grayson in general is one of my favorite characters in DC Comics.
Yeah.
As any of the things that he's been.
and there's some great stuff if you read Battle for the Cowl that kind of all the
including
Robins.
I was just saying, including Dick Grayson as
Dick
Batman.
Grayson's my second favorite Batman.
I think he's
I'd have to agree with that as well.
not Azrael.
I was going to say, who are the other choices? John Paul Valley, now Jim Gordon, I guess.
Or Terry McGinnis in the future.
Wait a minute. Now he might be my second favorite Batman. Actually, now that I think
No,
of that.
Dick Grayson is a better Batman than Terry McGinnis.
Terry McGinnis. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a big Batman Beyond fan.
And I'm a big fan of Rocket Boots, so
I'm a fan of both those things.
I'm a fan of fingertips that can listen through things.
Sure.
Yeah, so there have been. We just name dropped Jason Todd, obviously.
he was a Robin, to be sure.
a very
He
controversial
makes
figure
a
in comics.
better villain. Death improved Jason Todd.
And even not so much that he makes a better. I mean, because he did come back as a villain, but just or in his sort of ambiguous nature that he is now, this sort of-
Anti-hero.
yeah,
He's got all the skills, and we're not sure he has the same morals as Batman.
right.
That's
exactly.
kind of the thing.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
like,
as a more violent vigilante.
sure, he's a dark reflection of what Batman could be very easily if he decided to turn
For sure.
away from his morals.
Somebody more like a Punisher.
Sure. I just find it very fascinating that Batman of all characters has gone through such a endless chain of sidekicks. Of all the characters I can think
I
of,
mean, we could-
who has more sidekicks than Batman?
Nobody's got the Bat family. He has a family of sidekicks.
I know, but it's just like, think of all the damaged children he has gathered into one. Like, some psychiatrist has to be just making an assload of money off of the Wayne horde of bat children.
Her name is Leslie Tompkins.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so you've got obviously you've got all your Robins, and then of course Bruce's actual son, Damian, son of him and Talia al Ghul,
Sure.
raised for most of his life by Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
He's kind of a mess.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little murdery.
He's a murdery little scamp.
That he is. Are you guys Damian fans?
No.
I'm not much of a Damian fan myself.
I like him best when he's working with Dick Grayson.
I agree.
Okay.
Because him constantly back talking about you're not my real dad sort of a thing
Yeah.
was always entertaining.
And I think he plays a really important part for a time, especially in that Grant Morrison run.
I like the idea of Damian more than the actual character.
Yeah,
of
and
Damian.
that's what I was
what
gonna
he
say.
does for Bruce or
Yeah.
Dick as a story, as a plot thread.
Yeah.
To me, is more interesting than that character. Is just a little shit. Really,
yeah.
I mean, everything he says, I just
Yeah.
want to smack him.
Yep.
It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, it feels like in certain ways, a lot of the reasons that people hated Jason Todd kind of came back with Damian in a different context.
I think what makes Damian more interesting is that
he's more interesting for sure.
Is that he has clear character progression and reasons for being that dickish.
Yes.
As opposed to Jason Todd,
not
who's
not
It's
Dick,
true.
not like Dick Grayson. So when we
No.
said
No.
dickish,
Yeah.
sorry.
fine then, a little shit.
Okay, to use John's vernacular.
Right.
Yeah. But it's true. Yeah. No, he is an interesting. There's a lot of interesting about him, but on an issue to issue basis, he can drive
He's a
me
little
insane.
jerk.
Yeah.
Well, and what I think is
To quote
important.
the angry uncle from Home Alone.
Yes.
so harsh. Every time I see that movie, I'm like,
What you
"God,
did, you little jerk?
Yeah, I can't. Who would ever say that to a kid? I mean, that guy's a monster, and nobody stops him. You know what? He didn't need that family. They never appreciate him anyway.
But it's attitudes like that made him so good at trap building.
it's true, and turned him into obviously the
Yeah, if he
vigilante
was-
he would become.
If he was loved and left behind, he wouldn't have stood a chance.
Right, no, those thieves would have just murdered him.
What I think the important thing about the difference between Jason and Damian is Bruce sees Jason as, hey, I can make this guy better.
Yeah.
We can figure this out. For Damian, he's responsible for Damian even existing. And so when he sees him going off the rails, he's like, I have to get this back in line because if he does something crazy, I'm directly at fault for that. Like Jason was like, I'm trying to help this person. It's a process. Damian, it's like, get your shit together because this is going down, right? Like I'm
No,
responsible.
it went down 12 years ago.
Yeah, it's true.
Right.
And he's like responsible for all of that, you know, because he's his son. And so I
Yeah.
think that's and I wonder what it would be like if Jason had actually been Bruce's son.
I think it would have been much like what we've seen with Damien to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I mean, without all the League of Assassins stuff.
Yeah.
Or what did it become? It wasn't League of Assassins at that point. It was
League of Shadows.
No, it wasn't League of Shadows either. It was Talia al Ghul's organization.
The Not the Hand.
Oh,
I don't know.
DC, John, I don't know.
I'm talking to the wrong guy. Some people are screaming it right now at their
Right,
computers
sure.
or iPods
Scream
or
it over
car.
Twitter.
League of Ninjas.
It was something I can't remember. In about 40 minutes near the end of this episode, I will remember
Just
it. I'm
start
sure.
screaming it
Just
out.
yell it out.
Leviathan.
Okay.
Is what it's called.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Clearly, people haven't read it. But
I read it. I just don't remember that.
Yeah.
It's not as catchy as League of Assassins.
Yeah, that's it though. But then we can talk about then the Bat family expanding out of Robin, and obviously what's become a hugely popular character is Batgirl.
Sure.
And it has
different iterations of her as well.
Absolutely. Oh, we also didn't talk. I want to backtrack for a second before we get into that and talk about Carrie Kelly Robin though.
Oh yeah, she's definitely one of my favorite Robins, but I think that's more of an aesthetics than an actual character thing because we don't have much of her as a character.
Well, I mean, she's to a certain extent in that Tim Drake vibe of here's somebody who aspired to be something,
yeah,
and was doing it before Tim Drake, I believe.
At least in our chronology, yes.
Yeah, I mean, yes, no, not in the story of
Right.
Batman, of course, but in the releasing of the comics.
Yes.
Carrie Kelly came first, and that character always really struck me because she was sort of like me or whoever. She was a Bat fan in the world of Batman.
She aspired to Batdom.
Right. She and the way she earns Bruce's respect, and I mean, and there's that moment in Dark Knight Returns when he's all injured and he's in the car and he's like, "Good soldier."
Right.
And you're like, "Wow, that's nice."
But at the same time, you're watching that going, "No, little girl, run away. This will not end well. You are getting into league with a psycho." Because say what you will about Batman, he is a crazy person.
Sure, we'd have to be. They all kind of are. I mean, any of the non-superpowered ones have to be a little bit crazy. Green Arrow.
I think even some of the superpowered ones, but
They don't have to be though. I mean, if you're
Right.
Superman, I wouldn't call Superman crazy.
he's crazy idealistic.
Yes, but I mean, then you get into what's our definition of crazy? They're all crazy something.
Sure.
Maybe how about like a Barry Allen? He's not crazy.
No, he's pretty level-headed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's no Wally West, but
Woo! All right.
Let's
Well,
not
this is
let's not
an
open up
episode
that
about
debate.
that, but
No.
all right. Biting my tongue.
But I was going to say, I mean, and very much Carrie Kelly, very much a Frank Miller design. Just looking
Right.
at her aesthetically, the sunglasses in place of the mask and things like
no,
that.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, I like the look of Carrie Kelly. There's just not enough of that character because all we ever really see of her is Dark Knight Returns and Dark Knight Strikes Again.
Well, not
And
anymore.
not anymore. That's true.
Now we have Carrie Kelly in DC proper.
And
through
because I know that was happening. I haven't read any comics where she's shown up though.
Yeah, she is. She's in the post death of Damien stuff as she knew Damien, and then starts coming around Wayne Manor, being like, "What happened to Damien?"
Okay.
And obviously, Damien's dead. So I haven't read the Damien coming back stuff, so I don't really know where that goes. But I've read up through at least the introduction of Carrie Kelly, and she's starting to grow on Bruce in terms of because at first he's just like, "Get out of here."
Who are you, little girl? Strange little child, please.
Yeah, or he doesn't even do that. He has Alfred get rid of her.
Of course.
Yeah.
Get her out of here. But yeah, so she's around now. It's interesting. She's much different than she is in Dark Knight Returns. I mean, there's a lot of the same tenets of the character, of course, but the context is hugely different. Just not being the world of Dark Knight Returns at the very least. But I was going to say a little bit back to the aesthetics. It also I really like through Miller's drawings. You get that return of this hulking, this big Batman with this spunky little Robin,
Right.
Which I've always sort of liked as the image of the two.
And I think
It's
that's
this
what
big
Damien got
guy-
us back to as well.
It's this big guy and this little kid.
Yeah.
There is something cool about that.
It's him next to Nightwing at this point.
But that's
is like,
part of the
they're
thing,
equals to one
But that's
another.
part of the thing
Yeah.
that never made a ton of sense about superhero sidekicks to begin with. Was like, why do these heroes need maybe emotionally they sometimes need these kids, but on a physical and danger level, you are putting a child into danger.
Well, I always liked Grant Morrison's. We were talking about on an emotional level. Grant Morrison's description of the Bruce Wayne Dick Grayson relationship was that Dick is the kid Bruce didn't get to be.
Sure.
Here's a kid, even though he also lost his parents, but Dick is much different than Bruce, and
Oh, yeah.
even the way he's dealt with that, he's not nearly the tortured figure that Bruce is.
No.
And so, to a certain extent, I think Bruce kind of wishes he could be Dick. I mean, here, I can do something for this kid that I wasn't, that I lost.
And we can see a lot of that psychology going in through Batman, but I'm talking about the whole length and breadth of
Yes.
superhero sidekicks. We look at something like oh god, I don't even know. I mean, Bucky's a great example. Later he
There
was
you go.
justified by Brubaker, but I think
Bucky was going to be the next one I was going to go to here. So, Well, actually, yeah, sure. Let's go to Bucky.
Because, Bucky Barnes, Captain America's sidekick.
Yeah.
He was just like a teen, like, wow, Cap, look out for the Nazis.
Well, the other thing, too, is I feel like his age... What is his age initially? Because Brubaker made him, like, late high school, didn't he?
Like 18 or 19.
Yeah, I mean, so, like, you can buy it.
Sure.
But I feel like he was, like, 13 in the original
yeah.
comics. And you're just like, what
He
is
was
this
a plucky
kid doing?
boy in the middle of World War II.
And what was his... what was his original reasoning for being there?
He was a mascot.
Yeah, he was just there.
I'm pretty sure he was like literally a mascot.
I'm pretty sure he was just like, we're going to pick one lucky boy to be Captain America's sidekick.
Pretty much.
And, boy, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to be Batman and take a kid out on patrol. Dangerous streets of Gotham City. You are taking him into an active war zone when you send him to the
That
European
is full
front.
of super war.
Yeah.
Because, like, there was the whole thing.
It's the Marvel version of World War II.
Right. Which, God, I want to see that book. just show World War II via the Marvel, but, like...
I'm pretty sure you could cobble it together just from individual pieces of stories.
Cobble
over
together.
them.
I want to see, like, a big, like...
The history of World War II through the eyes of Marvel.
Right. Give me, like, some kind of... Burns documentary style
Yeah.
thing of Marvel's World War II. That would
Are
be
you
so
listening,
cool.
Marvel? We've just been throwing ideas at you here. And
Eric
they-
Lensha on the concentration camps and
Oh yeah.
Captain America.
Well, all the
The
characters.
Invaders.
All
the
the characters
Invaders
are
and-
so affected by.
all the Howling Commando stuff.
So
All the
affected-
Hydra super, like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
stuff going on. That would be so interesting.
Yeah, the crazy evil group within the crazy evil group. That would be really interesting. But through Bucky, we have this kid who's, it's interesting. Bucky to me was always really dumb until Brubaker. Really.
I mean,
it's
yeah.
true. Like
I
he
think that way-
made no sense at all.
I think that way about a lot of sidekicks, to be fair. Unless there's a very good reason that's given to me for this kid to be ambling around with this superhero, I see almost no reason for... And the best sidekicks are the ones who are like justified either through like psychological reasons or some kind of connective tissue between the characters.
Well, I was going to bring up when we talked about the Bat family. I mean, they sort of created this Bat family. They tried to do this with Superman.
I tried being the optimal
Well, I was
word
going to bring
there.
when you talk about connective tissue, I was going to bring up Supergirl. Makes sense.
But she's not a sidekick.
Oh, she very much was when she initially showed up. Maybe
Yeah.
a lot of these characters, like Batgirl as well, have expanded into being sort of their own things. But initially, Supergirl was.
That's
I think
true.
Superboy is the same way.
Well, yeah. Then you get into this weird thing about who is Superboy, because initially Superboy was just young Superman,
Yeah.
but then they get into Superman's clone,
Right.
Things like that. But or Superman's clone also makes sense as well. But this whole idea about I think Supergirl, it makes sense that. I mean, she has all of Superman's powers. She's Superman's cousin. She's Superman's spunky teenage cousin,
Right.
Who's got all the powers of him, but also has emotional turmoil because she's a teenage girl. And
Sure.
why won't anyone hang out with her? One of my favorite covers in comics is from an issue of Supergirl. I don't know what it might be the '60s. I don't know. It's but it's like from the outside of a house, and there's these teenagers having a party, and then outside is Supergirl holding a cat. And she's going, what's the point of all these superpowers if I don't have any friends? It's like,
She's in her outfit?
Yeah, she's in the costume, yeah.
That's so awesome.
It's just like,
She's Supergirl. If she strolled through the door of that party, everyone would go, "Hey, Supergirl!"
No, she's an outcast.
Of
She's a
course.
weirdo.
Yeah.
She's a girl.
The 60s were a hard time.
It was rough. It was rough for girls with superpowers then. But no, so they tried to create this. I mean, it's interesting. If you look at the history of comics, Robin shows up, and then suddenly everybody needs a Robin,
Right.
And so this whole idea or everybody needs the sidekicks. That's where that would lead to something like a Bucky
Or Crypto, the super dog.
Well, I was just going to say another part of the Superman family is Crypto the super dog.
There's a super horse. There's a super cat. There's a super goddamn everything.
There really is. The only one who really made any kind of impact was Crypto, though.
He's around.
I mean, and there was Ace the Bat Hound as well.
I like that makes sense. Like having a badass dog just hanging out in the Batcave.
Doesn't
in case
make
somebody
sense to
gets
where
in.
if the dog's wearing a cowl, though.
No, that
and a little cape,
No.
which he was, and he was solving mysteries.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
John, something we talked about is he makes a lot more sense in Batman Beyond.
where he's definitely there, and,
Because-
and it's just Bruce's dog because he's an
Right.
old
He's an old man and
alone
he's a
in
security system. Yeah,
in a house,
Exactly.
and in that he's just like he's like a Great Dane, isn't he, or something like
Something
that?
Big
like that.
Rottweiler or something.
He's a big dog,
Yeah.
But yeah, the animals are interesting. I mean, I don't know, like they.
Though I will defend Frog Thor till my death.
Frog Thor. Never will I give up on Frog Thor. The many great adventures they had together. But I was saying, Superman though, for some reason, the family aspect of him didn't catch on. And I think part of that might be, this is what I was going to bring up, which is, does Superman already have a sidekick? And is that sidekick Jimmy Olsen?
It is.
I guess this comes down to what is our definition of sidekick.
Well, this is kind of why I wanted to bring up Jimmy
Yeah.
Olsen. Because Jimmy Olsen, while not costumed, while not powered, is the, right-hand man of Superman. He's Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen.
Is that what we qualify as a sidekick, though? Is it someone who just pals around with them? I always assumed sidekick meant they, shared in the adventure. They got up
but Jimmy
up
Olsen,
in the action.
Jimmy Olsen does a lot of legwork for Superman. He goes and checks things out, and he's got the watch that sends out the signal to send Superman to him and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
Jimmy Olsen's a little bit more active. I mean, note I don't say Lois Lane is his sidekick or Perry White or any of the other supporting characters. Commissioner Gordon is certainly not a sidekick for Batman.
Right.
But Jimmy Olsen does kind of do some work for Superman, is hanging around, is helping Superman out.
And
on
he,
his-
I mean,
his
he, more
adventures.
often than not, he does get dragged into those adventures, mostly getting kidnapped. Let's
Sure,
be honest.
yeah. I mean, by that argument, so does Lois to a certain extent. Although Lois is frequently the impetus behind it, where
Sure.
she's already doing something, gets kidnapped, and drags
Yeah.
Superman into it.
But I guess
it's interesting because I was looking at some lists. I was looking at some lists before we were before we were recording of best comic book superheroes, and Jimmy Olsen was on one of them. I thought, ooh, that's interesting because I don't know.
Jimmy Olsen always struck me as kind of, I'm going to take it over to Marvel, is to Rick Jones, who's the kid who always
also
hung around,
on those lists of sidekicks.
who hung around with the Hulk for the longest time. He was also hanging around the Avengers Mansion for the longest time. He was always kind of the kid who was around. And Jimmy Olsen always struck me as he's around. He's at best, he's being a nuisance to these heroes. If he weren't there, they wouldn't have to deal with half the problems they do.
I don't know that. I think Rick Jones is more of that than Jimmy is. In
Yeah.
terms of a problem. I mean, Jimmy has a job. He's a journalist who actually is doing things.
And I mean, Rick Jones eventually does get up to being a superhero and
Sure.
stuff. Eventually becomes, what is it, A-Bomb, the Blue Hulk thing.
Yeah, because we all know how popular that character is.
I like him. He's in World War Hulks and Fall of the Hulk and all that stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Hulk stuff. I know you're just
Yeah.
John,
Yep.
right over the head.
Well, I've read a handful of Hulk comics.
Handful of Hulk.
Handful of Hulk. That's my next album, actually. Handful of Hulk. Disappointing. It has nothing to do with the Hulk. It just was a fun alliteration.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that album and go, oh.
Yeah, there's no Hulk in here at all.
But yeah, I don't know if those two necessarily qualify as.
It's an interesting debate, isn't it? I mean, I don't know.
Because Donovan, what would you say? What qualifies a sidekick?
I mean, I feel like the classical definition of a sidekick means they're on the front lines and they're fighting with them.
Yeah, that's.
I think recently, though, they've become more. It's become less defined in a way. If you watch the new Arrow series, Felicity Smoke is kind of a sidekick, but she's pretty much just behind a computer screen feeding them information. Or
Yeah.
Oracle for a while was kind of a sidekick to what was going on.
Those characters are. There's always tech people are their own category almost because I mean even outside of superhero stuff, you look at characters like Q in the James Bond universe or Chloe on 24. You know, these agent characters or whatever who have their tech people who are back at the base on a comm link doing something on a computer or something
But
that. Are they sidekicks though?
Yeah, I mean they're crucial to getting the job done.
Well, but they're not.
I mean, what you would call them would be allies.
Yeah.
So then
then you get into this whole thing about allies and partners, which I wanted to bring up because what's the difference between a sidekick and a partner? Because
I feel like a sidekick is a subordinate.
okay, so because I'm saying like Cap had Bucky, I would never call the Falcon Cap's sidekick though.
Again,
but they're a team
But yeah, again, I think it comes down
or
to
War Machine Iron Man.
subordination. I
Yeah.
think is the key here. Is a sidekick follows the orders of the main hero. The sidekick is there to help, but never they shouldn't be necessarily taking their own initiative, which is a terrible thing to say because these characters need agency and whatnot. But the role
frequently they're young people.
Right. The role to hero to sidekick is generally one of I'm training you to do this. I'm mentoring you. You need to follow my orders so you don't get hurt.
Frequently the ward.
Right.
I mean that's
So
always
then
the-
Jimmy Olsen would not be a sidekick
by that definition. But that's the whole thing. We get into these interesting.
I would say Jimmy Olsen and your Rick Jones types fall into more of the hangers-on. They're the what were those two kids in Super Friends who were always hanging around the
the Wonder Twins.
No, there was these two kids with a dog that were always hanging around the
Team
Hall of
Rocket.
Justice.
Yeah,
No, that was a cat.
Who knows?
Like Mary and Melville or something.
something like that. once again, the kids who could be you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's more of a category than, say, the sidekick is like, could be you if you tried really hard. Whereas Jimmy Olsen, Rick Jones, kids from Super Friends.
I would put Jimmy Olsen in the ally camp. He fits more like a Felicity or a Q or something like that. He's more active than a hanger-on.
Sure.
He helps Superman. But
he tries to help Superman. Superman doesn't need any help. He's Superman.
Well, yes, but he does. I mean, he does need help, or else the story would be quite boring. If it was just Superman being
so you mean it'd be Superman?
Fixed it. Oh, yes, we know.
We walked into that, John.
Lex Luthor on the show again.
All I'm saying is all Kryptonians need to get the hell off this planet.
Very simple.
Very simple.
Mike Gargoni for 2016 president.
Well, then, sort of taking it back to...
Running on an anti-Kryptonian platform.
Anti-Kryptonian.
Well, it worked for Lex Luthor. He was elected.
He was elected president. Man's got his shit together.
I guess so. It didn't work out well for him, but I think his presidency ended pretty poorly. But
Man, I want a President Lex bumper sticker now.
it must be out there.
Oh, it has to be.
I'm sure. If not, we'll make sure it happens.
Lex and Brainiac 2020.
I love the idea that Brainiac would be okay with being the VP. Yeah.
Oh, he knows where the real power is.
Not with the VP is the answer.
But he's going under the radar.
He would be the one who's going into all the foreign dignitaries and rubbing elbows and stuff. Would be Brainiac.
Yes, that's right. He's the guy you want out there dealing.
Yeah,
with
he's a Biden kind
yeah.
of.
Oh, he's just like Biden. Biden, the Brainiac of the real world. What I was going to say about taking it back to Bucky, one interesting thing about Bucky is his turn from sidekick to equal partner / his own sort of superhero act as the Winter Soldier.
I think that is primarily due to the Brubaker run.
It is 100% due to the Brubaker run.
That completely justifies, basically retcons Bucky into importance.
Oh, for sure. And creates him and turns him into the Winter Soldier. And I mean, all that was Brubaker into the redemption of him, into him becoming Cap, into him becoming then his own figure as just the Winter Soldier. And getting his own book and stuff.
I don't even know, where is Bucky floating around in the post-Secret Wars stuff? I'm not even sure.
I don't know.
Because Falcon's definitely Cap now. And
I think he's just the Winter Soldier, isn't he?
I don't know.
I think he's his own guy.
I kind of lost track of him
espionage
during Secret Wars.
I think he's just an espionage adventure kind of guy.
Okay.
With a cool mechanical arm.
I haven't seen him crop up in any of the new books. That's why I ask.
Yeah. I think he still has his own book. Bucky Barnes' Winter Soldier is a book that's running around out there. But yeah, I mean, an incredibly...
We see this a lot with... I think that is the natural progression of these sidekicks, is seeing them evolve into their own. I mean, you talked about Dick Grayson becoming Nightwing.
Absolutely.
That's the classic example. But Bucky becoming the Winter Soldier.
I feel like,
is also
once
really
again, Dick did it first, you know? I mean, he sort of set the tone for a lot of these things.
Sure, I don't know.
He is the quintessential sidekick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dick Grayson Robin is kind of the innovator on that.
He's sort of, I mean, he is the epitome of the kid sidekick.
Yeah.
Then also we should talk a little bit about, I don't really know how much we want to talk about, but Speedy.
I was going to say Speedy.
Speedy is interesting because
You mean Arsenal?
Well,
What do you mean Red Arrow?
Hold
Or
on.
do you mean...
Hold on. He's no longer a sidekick at that point. Only as Speedy.
So Speedy, it falls into an interesting category, which is, to me, these characters who are not only the sidekick to, but they're also sort of like another version of, because then you also get into somebody like a Kid Flash as well, where they're very similar to their superhero, you know?
Wait,
hold on. Robin is pretty similar to Batman.
He's not Bat Kid, though, you know what I'm saying?
No, but they throw the shuriken, they use the grappling guns.
All the Bat characters are like that. I mean, by anything, Batgirl is a little bit more in line with what I'm talking about, though, where it's like, not only do they do the same thing, they have the same kind of look, it's sort of a variation of the costume, even.
That's upsetting to you?
No, it's not upsetting me. I'm just saying it follows another. It almost takes into another category, though, where Speedy is just a kid version of Green Arrow, much like a Kid Flash is, as its name implies, a kid version of Flash.
Aqualad.
Aqualad, absolutely, the same thing.
Because
Superboy,
all of those characters,
Supergirl.
Actually, I would like to bring up a very excellent show on the topic of sidekicks, and that's Young Justice.
Sure.
Young Justice is one of the best superhero shows to come out since the Paul Dini, Bruce Timm Justice League show ended. If you haven't tracked it down, do yourself a favor.
Well, on that note, I should also bring up, something that's an interesting idea is when they sort of start taking these characters together.
Like Teen Titans.
Teen Titans was what I was just going to bring up, particularly like the George Perez, Marv Wolfman stuff, which is sort of your definitive Teen Titans.
Sure.
New Teen Titans it is. it was an interesting idea where it's like they are their own entity as a group, as a team of sidekicks who are no longer sidekicks, obviously, because they exist together now.
I find it interesting that that is really only possible via, or in DC, I should say.
You think so?
We've seen teams of young characters in Marvel,
Yeah.
but never entirely compromised of sidekicks.
Great Lakes Avengers.
None of them are sidekicks.
It very much feels like, hey, you guys handle the easier stuff.
Yeah, but none of them are sidekicks. They're like lame characters. At best, like Squirrel Girl tried to be the sidekick of Iron Man.
Of Iron Man, and then maybe a mutant for a while.
It's
but
interesting.
I mean, that's what Teen Titans are.
The difference is Teen Titans, almost every single one of those characters was associated with another.
Well, that's not entirely true. I mean, Robin, obviously.
Raven wasn't.
Cyborg
wasn't.
certainly wasn't.
Beast Boy.
But Robin and Kid Flash, obviously.
Robin, Kid Flash, Superboy, Wonder Girl.
Yeah. Yes.
But
No, we didn't talk
I'm just
about
saying
Wonder Girl.
there's more of a trend to Wonder Girl is a weird, like, is she even like in some iterations she's a sidekick, in some iterations she's like an alternate version.
She's
of,
primarily a Teen Titans member these days. Like
Yeah.
that, she exists as a Teen Titans character. It's interesting. I mean, so do a lot of those characters. Kid
Yes.
Flash as well. Not really present in Flash comics anymore.
no, well, no.
More once again as a Teen Titans character. Robin's kind of the only one who still exists back in its original iteration.
It's amazing how long Kid Flash has been Kid Flash. That first issue came out in 1956, and he's still Kid Flash.
Yep.
Well, and then we start dealing with the time dilation of comic books, and then we'll be here all
To
night.
which the best answer I ever heard about that was somebody asked Matt Fraction something about time or something. He's just like, why must we impose our understanding of time on these comics? It's like, you have no idea where these fit in or how time works in this world, so just read the stories and accept it. It was the kindest way I've ever heard somebody tell somebody to shut up.
My favorite insane in-canon fan theory for at least how time works in the Marvel universe is Franklin Richards, Mr.
no.
Fantastic's young son, is capable of altering realities. That's like his mutant power.
Yeah.
Is like he's a reality warper. Is that
I like
he
that.
has a childlike perception of the world.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to keep things fun and adventurous. So like certain characters age who he's not like peripherally aware of, but ones he's like very aware
Yeah.
of don't age as fast so that they can stay young and like keep having adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Because he hasn't aged.
No, certainly not. No. Both of their kids have stayed roughly the same age forever.
I'm sorry, 1966. Did I say 56?
Yeah,
for
you
Teen
did
Titans?
say 56.
I'm sorry, it's Brave and Bold 56 in
Yeah.
1966.
Yeah,
I think.
something like that.
Don't quote me if I'm wrong.
Whatever.
Just don't quote us ever.
Like I said, I
Just
don't. I mean, the Wolfman Perez run is really my run of that, so I don't really know where it is.
I mean, the original run had some great stuff going on and some great characters. Aqualad, Kid Flash, and Robin were all there.
Sure, yeah.
But
But somebody I want to talk about too is an interesting sort of line between legacy character, sidekick. What is Kate Bishop?
She's Hawkeye.
Well, yes, but so is Clint Barton.
because she's not a Speedy.
No,
No, because I mean, have you read the original Young Avengers run that introduced her? She's just a kick-ass girl who's like, hey, you guys are like young superheroes? I want to be a young superhero.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal a bunch of the Avengers' old shit
Right.
and be a badass superhero.
Right.
And then she fell into the role of Hawkeye because she's awesome.
right. But then Clint Barton also is Hawkeye.
Sure, but at the time, he was also dead.
Well, at that time. But I'm
So-
talking about I mean, you get into we're obviously discussing things in a very label-based manner here.
Sure.
Because we have to talk about sidekicks and we have to call people something.
I don't think Kate Bishop is a sidekick. I think she's more in the ally, like, partner.
Well, she's an interesting
realm.
thing because she sort of falls into a lot of different categories. She has elements of being a sidekick. She has elements of being a legacy character like a Terry McGinnis.
Right.
She's also just her own thing as well, or an ally to Hawkeye. She's an interesting character. She almost falls into like a War Machine category. To a
I
certain
think
extent.
she far more falls into a War Machine type, or later on like a Falcon type
Falcon
role,
Cap, yeah.
as opposed to a like Robin or a Young Flash or
Yeah.
Kid Flash, whatever.
Kid Flash.
Yeah. Whoa. Are you writing a Young Flash comic? Because I'm not aware of
don't
one.
The Adventures
know.
of Young Flash.
DC, I don't know.
It's DC.
There's so many friggin' sidekicks on that side. I don't even know. That's what point I'd actually.
You think there are?
I
more
think there are
sidekicks?
way more sidekicks on the DC side. like, think about your Marvel mainstays, like your Spider-Mans, your Iron Mans, your Captain America. Like, 1 out of 3 of those has a sidekick. Most of the time, you don't see a Marvel superhero running around with a sidekick.
Yeah, maybe not by the traditional concept of what a sidekick is. I mean, like I said, you have maybe more of the allies.
I don't think you see a lot of sidekicks in Marvel.
I think
and
you see
I
a
do
lot of
concede
pairings and
that
teams.
the animal
but not
sidekicks,
sidekicks.
Right.
the animal
Again,
and
if we-
sidekicks are way better. Lockheed and
I was
Lockjaw.
just going to bring up
A dragon and a telekinetic teleporting
Well, and I was also gonna
giant
bring
dog.
Up,
Okay,
yeah.
that's pretty amazing.
Also on the Marvel does have some cool animal sidekick.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Runaways has
Old Lace.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, for sure.
Telepathic Velociraptor from the future.
Yeah,
they exist, people.
Yeah. No, the animal sidekicks are interesting as well, and they're sidekicks because they're animals.
I
so
would
they're-
say animals qualify as sidekicks because there's a whole, like, I would say Pizza Dog is more of Hawkeye's sidekick than Kate Bishop is.
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Hang on. What about Chip?
Who?
Chippy?
Who?
Old Chip?
No, stop it.
Because he is no one's sidekick. He is a full-on Green Lantern.
But
Oh,
but
the
here's,
goddamn squirrel Green
but
Lantern.
here's the thing. But hold on. But
That's
he's
what
in
I'm
the
saying.
Same,
Animals
he's in
are
the
not always
same,
sidekicks.
He's in the same category as Rocket, where he's an alien that looks like an animal we have. He's not. He's a sentient being. He's,
No, wait a minute. Hasn't Rocket been retconned, though, that he is an actual raccoon who's been experimented upon?
I don't know.
He's not from a planet of raccoons. Am I correct on this?
Originally he was.
Yeah, he originally was, but I believe he's been retconned to just be a genetically altered raccoon.
I do not
Either
know. I
way-
think he has some, like, weird high evolutionary shit going on, so it could be anything.
Either way, Chip is a legitimate member of the Green Lantern Corps.
That's what I'm saying, but I'm saying
He
let's
is
not.
a sidekick. There are no sidekicks in the Green Lantern
No, they're
Corps.
just Green Lanterns. It's
For
like
Kyle Rayner.
You.
whoa.
I am so
Look out.
furious. I need to leave right now. Something
the-
just came up.
and that's
It's
the-
me burning Gorgoni's car. Because that is a hate crime.
The you burning my car or me saying that Kyle Rayner is a subordinate to...
Both.
We'll have to ask the officer who shows up to respond to that.
Guy Gardner is more of a sidekick.
Guy
than
Gardner's
Kyle.
not a sidekick in any either.
Well,
None
then
of them are
then
sidekicks.
Kyle Rayner is.
None
Okay,
of them are
none of the Green
sidekicks.
Lanterns are sidekicks.
I know it's a joke, but you're getting me worked up.
You and your Kyle Rayner defense.
I mean, hell, the
He-
Guardians of Oa are more sidekicks than any of the Green
Yeah,
Lanterns.
yeah. Those guys are useless most of the time. Ganthet's great. Everybody else is kind of like,
yeah, and name any of the other ones. That's the thing. In fact, you know Ganthet's name is probably a good example of
Yeah,
how
he's-
important he
he's
is.
better than
'Cause
the
I don't
others.
know who the hell any of their other names are. Who
you know what?
cares?
The rest
They're
of the-
always standing in everyone's way.
The rest of the Guardians are there just so that they look like it's a democracy and not Ganthet's running the show. Honestly, it could be holograms from Ganthet. All we know.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, no, there are no. The Green Lanterns are all equal. That's one thing we can agree on this show, right? They're all
Unless your name is
equal.
Sinestro.
Well, then you're not really a Green Lantern anymore. Now you have your
Well,
own
now
Corps.
he is. He is again.
Was he now?
He is again.
Well, I
he
know
doesn't want to be
at the
but he
beginning.
is.
That's the beginning of the New 52. So I don't know
Yeah.
if he's still one now, though. I have not read the. I stopped reading after John's left.
Yeah.
Because who cares? He ended that book. That's a whole other debate. But
Yeah.
Jeff Johns ended that story, and I don't need to read any more Green Lantern after it.
Ever?
No, he
Oh,
did
wow.
it. He ended the story.
I mean, you're not wrong.
he ended the story of the Green Lantern.
Fair enough.
So that's it for me. I
Okay.
can go back and read old stuff, but new stuff, no interest.
Fair enough.
Here's one that I was curious to see.
Yeah.
And we're moving from hero sidekicks. We've got the Joker and you've got Harley Quinn.
Yes, Harley Quinn came up on a couple of those lists. Of
Would you
sidekicks.
call her a sidekick?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Again, I think it comes down to a level
Villains
of,
can have sidekicks too.
Yeah.
of giving orders and being subordinate to your main like focal, whether it be a hero or a villain.
Yeah.
So you have characters like Harley Quinn, or you have kind of the ventriloquist.
I was gonna
like
say
you
the
have
ventriloquist.
Scarface. You've got Scarface as like the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then the ventriloquist, I guess, is kind of his sidekick.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
also
and what
the-
you get a lot with the villains is they've got like goons to help them carry out their plan.
Well, there's also things like Feora to General Zod. I mean, you
Yeah.
have an actual military kind of structure there.
and for a while,
Or who's Arcade? He always has some
Oh,
assistant. Miss Locke, I think is her name.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Who's That relationship is great. Like Arcade
Yeah.
lets her try to kill him one day a year on his birthday. Arcade's a great villain. He put the X-Men into a pinball machine. I approve.
There's also, I mean, you look at like for a while, Riddler had those two girls follow him, and they had names, but
That's right.
who cares?
Question and Mark.
Yeah, a girl named Mark.
What was it in Batman Forever? Was it Sugar and Spice or with,
Yeah, that made more
Two-Face?
sense. That made
That
way
made
more
no
sense.
sense,
Hey,
though. I
Drew
don't know.
Barrymore was one of them. It made sense.
What?
Her presence just makes it make sense.
Yeah,
All right.
She was in that movie?
She's one of
she's
Two-Face's.
Spice, I think.
Oh,
No,
wow.
she's
She's
sugar.
She's
She's
sugar.
sugar.
Completely
Debbie
forgotten
Mazar
that.
is Spice.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that shows you how much I detest that movie.
He's got the
that movie's
He's got the
great.
hideout that's literally split down the middle
Yeah.
into two separate sides.
That movie is.
Tommy Lee Jones was certainly doing something in that movie.
That movie
Whether it
is-
was acting, I don't know.
He was having a lot of fun.
That movie is
He was
great.
having I've never seen him that loose in a film.
ever
Never.
from like the first scene.
Yep.
He is,
He is
all the
having
way
the
loose.
greatest time ever being in that
and
movie.
Val Kilmer he's having a good time too.
Val Kilmer, good Batman.
He's a great Batman.
You know
Say what
who
you will
wasn't
about
having a good time? American audiences.
That's not true. That movie was a massive success.
Ugh.
A massive success.
Schumacher.
Big time success.
Ugh.
Well, that's why they let him do Batman and Robin.
Ooh,
but for
that
some reason,
was-
then they chose to control him on that as well. And someday he tells us he's going to write that comic about what his actual vision of the Batman movies was supposed to be.
I have
would
a
read that.
morbid fascination as to what that is. I
But-
don't know if I'm legitimately
Oh,
interested,
I'm
though.
excited.
right from Joel Schumacher's brain.
Yeah.
What his Batman was going to. The real Joel Schumacher
Oh,
Batman.
okay.
It's more bat nipples.
Before it got hijacked by a toy commercial, I guess.
Yeah, which that is. It's a gorgeous looking 2-hour toy commercial.
Yeah, thanks Hasbro.
But where were we before that? Oh, we were talking about villain sidekicks.
Yeah.
Well, because then you've got things like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I mean, are they Magneto's sidekicks?
Toad is
Well, Toad is everybody's sidekick.
Yeah, poor Toad.
Toad's never in
not
charge.
Mystique. She's not a sidekick. Sabretooth is not a
It's
sidekick.
because Mystique takes over the Brotherhood.
Pyro kind of is a sidekick.
Yeah, but you're right.
You end up seeing villains who like kind of fall into a more subservient role a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like any member of the Wrecking Crew,
Yeah.
you usually see showing up as just like they're a thug that somebody hired.
I was gonna say you also get these like groups with supervillains more than like we'll team up these supervillains. You get the Sinister Six, you get the Legion of Doom. You know, they're not sidekicks.
Sure, but
they're
those
teams.
are those are more like counters to the super teams,
Right,
And you
that's-
don't qualify anyone in the super teams as sidekicks per se, unless there is literally a sidekick in the super team,
Right.
Like Robin in the Justice League.
Yeah,
But in the villain-
rarely happens. He rarely has any interaction with the
Yeah,
Justice
he
League.
was more around. Like I know him floating around the Justice League because of Super Friends, but.
Yeah. We're like, what are you bringing this kid to all these meetings for, man? This is weird.
He ain't allowed in the Watchtower. You know that, right?
I feel like the villains.
I
Just,
want that hard conversation with Batman.
It's like
that has
Superman
been-
takes him aside and is like, look, he's not allowed up here.
We
like,
can't have this.
we have beers at these meetings.
All right, man. You know, I'm Superman. All right, I care very much about this. I will not contribute to the delinquency of a minor. It's really bad for my image.
Shouldn't he be in school?
Yeah.
that's the best question.
No, Alfred's homeschooling him. It's fine.
Alfred's homeschool. Where's he now? We're in space. This is not cool, man.
I like that Superman in this scenario is more concerned with Robin's safety and well-being than Batman is.
Yeah, you know that's true.
I'm sure it's
you
true.
You know when Bruce is out away from that table at Justice League, they're all like, "I can't believe he's having him do that. That kid, he's staying up late again."
Did you hear he took in another kid?
Yeah.
Is he running an orphanage? This is getting weird, guys. We got to talk to him. Got to throw up the intervention banner. You know, I mean, it's good. But yeah, you're right. Villains, there aren't as many that jump out immediately. Certainly,
That are legit sidekicks.
Right,
Because when you go for villainy, you're not necessarily looking for a subservient role. Mostly we get the villain sidekicks of like spawn of the like whatever those villains created or like specific henchmen.
Well, what about like a Talia al Ghul to a Ra's al Ghul?
She's not a
I
henchman.
mean, that's his. Well, she's not a henchman.
Yeah, I think she's
Or not-
very
or-
much her own entity.
Yeah.
Like she probably definitely started out as an extension of Ra's al Ghul, but she was never struck me as
Well, and
someone who's-
literally spawn of Ra's al Ghul.
but she's never struck me as someone who's subservient.
No, certainly.
And I keep coming back to this point, but I feel like that's a big part of the
of the
sidekick
role.
is like you are following the orders of the person who is your primary, I guess.
Yeah, Magneto puts people in line pretty quickly, but most other
Yeah, but that's true with
supervillains-
everyone or like by that definition, everyone is Magneto's sidekick because Magneto's putting
I was gonna say,
everybody
because-
in.
That's
But then
how we
you
end this conversation. But then everybody is Magneto's sidekick.
There's a T-shirt.
That's right.
You get into these things though, where you're like, then because there are people who just have armies and things like that. I mean, those aren't their sidekicks; that's just
No.
their army. And so, how many people does it take before
Those
you go?
henchmen.
I think
Remember
it's 2. You got 1 per side.
There you go.
We've split it a lot with like henchmen and allies. And
Yeah, yeah.
What did you hanger honors? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, sure.
Hang honors? I don't know what we called it.
Hangers-on.
We've been splitting hairs a
hangers-on,
lot
yeah.
with sidekicks.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, if it in our definition, an army would be henchmen.
Do we have? Can we go to the internet and look for a literal definition of sidekick? I'd be interested to
Oh
see.
yeah, let's do it.
Come on, Miriam. Come on, Webster.
Do your magic.
Is
do you,
sidekick
man.
in there?
In the Merriam-Webster dictionary,
Yeah.
I've got no idea. The word doe is in there, so I can only like Homer's doe.
Oh, I was like, a female deer?
No, a
Ray drop.
D apostrophe OH is in there these days, so I don't know anything to be in
Yeah,
there.
that's the thing about the English language being a fluid,
Okay, here we go.
sort of terrible thing.
A person's assistant or close associate, especially one who has less authority than that person.
Okay.
We're going far off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Felicity Smoke, by that definition, would be 1. Because she's a personal assistant who is
Yeah.
under the authority of Green Arrow. Right?
Here I am on, this is dictionary.com. I don't know where that first one was from. It just was at the
You
top.
didn't check the source?
It was just at the top of
I want to see
Google.
bibliography.
So this one is a close friend, could be considered a sidekick, a confederate or assistant, and that's it. So
Felicity
those-
Smoke.
So you guys are my sidekicks.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Wait, hold on.
I
One more
wouldn't go-
time?
Wouldn't go that far.
It's Gorgoni and the
Well, hold on.
Gorgonettes.
Hold on. Depends on who perspective the story's from.
So that first one was Merriam-Webster. The other one was dictionary.com.
Okay.
But dictionary.com, if the story's about Gorgoni, we are the sidekicks. If the story's about you, John, I'm still a sidekick. Gorgoni is one. If it's about me, which it
please, I'm
probably
an ally.
is. No.
Now
Not by that
here,
definition.
This is free.
I'm
This is
sure-
the freedictionary.com.
I'm sure our audience loves hearing us read definitions.
Well,
and then
I'm
explain
fascinated by this. A close friend or follower who accompanies another on adventures. Is
Oh,
what
okay.
that one is.
Yeah, we definitely are not on an adventure, so.
No, I would not call it-
podcasting adventure.
Is that an adventure? Certainly adventurous.
It's the one last great adventure.
No, I'm
And-
pretty sure that's space.
Urban Dictionary defines it as a popular contraption made by T-Mobile. So I don't, I don't. I don't know. The question is, I guess at the end of- I
wait. Was
guess
Dick
at the-
Grayson made popular by T-Mobile?
I think so. Yeah.
Thank you, Urban Dictionary. I needed that.
So I guess the answer is whatever the hell you want.
Sure.
Up to and including a popular contraption. I love the use of the word contraption. as well.
But on that note, I guess I'm moving away from DC and Marvel a little bit. Would you consider a character like Abe Sapien, like Hellboy's sidekick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. Do you think he's subservient to?
Yep.
At least at first. I mean,
I mean,
obviously
they're both,
later on.
They're like
What's a more
agents-
powerful color, red or blue?
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're like agents of the same organization.
But I always, especially in like
The
the original
PPRD.
Hellboy run,
Uh-huh.
I always kind of saw Hellboy as the primary,
Yeah.
and like Liz Sherman and Abe Sapien is kind of like following his lead,
So
sort of a
do
thing.
you see Liz Sherman as a sidekick then?
I mean, at first, I mean, obviously, once you get into BPRD proper,
Sure, yeah.
like those two are the main characters.
Well, yeah.
And then like Johan becomes more of a sidekick, and some of those other characters. But I don't know. That's an interesting.
No, it is. Yeah.
Because I think that definition really starts to break down a little bit once you get away from the traditional superheroes.
We start to get into something like would you call Chewbacca Han Solo's sidekick?
Yes.
I kind of would.
Yeah, I would too.
I mean, I don't care what you smell. Get in there, Chewie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't have a choice.
Well, you can't understand it if he does. Han's just telling you he said yes.
All of Chewbacca's lines are like, "You guys are so dumb.
Yeah.
Why do I hang around with you people?"
I don't
You
want to.
also
He said he'll do
smell
it. Yeah. No, he's really, Han's just pretending to know what he's saying. Yeah. That's what he said. Don't question it.
Oh man, if that's what we learned in one of like the Han Solo prequel movies, like he doesn't actually know Wookiee, he just pretends he does.
That'd be heartbreaking. My childhood would die. Like I've been lied to my whole life. The one thing I knew was that he spoke Wookiee. But no, there are side. I mean, the concept of the sidekick obviously is all over the place, up to and including late night hosts like Andy Richter.
Sure, yeah. Oh, Andy Richter is probably my favorite sidekick.
Yeah, Higgins.
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
sidekick.
yeah. Higgins is a sidekick, yeah, for sure. But no, so yeah, I mean this concept of obviously we've given it actual definitions, but I mean outside, are there sidekicks you can think of outside of the Marvel DC?
I mean, one that pops in my head immediately, which you two will not get at all,
right.
is between Godzilla and Anguirus.
Wait on
This is not the little kid Godzilla, is it?
No, Minya's a fucking douche.
Oh, boy.
No, Anguirus is
going
like
deep.
the armadillo looking one with the big spiky shell on its
Yeah,
back.
yeah, I've
He's
seen
in
it.
quite a few of the Godzilla movies, and he's always kind of like tooling around with Godzilla at times, and like eventually they might have a conversation or beat up King Ghidorah, whatever it feels like.
I didn't think it, but I shouldn't be surprised that this got eventually back around to Godzilla.
You know me so well, John.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could think of a sidekick for Dracula, I would, but I got nothing.
No, he's got one. What was it, Renfield?
I guess, yeah. That's more of a slave, though.
Yeah, what's the difference?
Mind-controlled servant, I don't
Yeah.
think.
What's
I
the
think
difference?
A sidekick has some agency.
So do you think that
They're choosing to follow.
you think
this
the
Right.
Igor
I think that's important.
Igor's a sidekick?
I would say
Renfield
Igor
isn't?
is a sidekick. Renfield definitely isn't. Like, a
Right.
horde of zombie minions aren't sidekicks, but one zombie who is able to go, "Really, sir? That's what we're going to do," is a sidekick.
Okay.
a Smithers, if you will.
Right. Like, I feel like the sidekicks, while subservient to their primary, have to have enough agency to where at times they can say, "No, we shouldn't be doing this," and that's what makes the most compelling stories with sidekicks, I think.
And then they get killed.
And then they get beaten to death with a crowbar.
Well,
the people said
that also
amen.
happens to Jason Todd as well. You never know. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything? Are there any other sidekicks anybody wants to talk about?
There's probably lots I'm
I
forgetting.
mean, one I'd love to bring up is Amadeus Cho.
okay.
Because he's
As having a sidekick? Or
no,
that
he is.
it?
He was. I mean, he was definitely a sidekick to Hercules. I feel like
Think
Yeah.
so? I once again haven't read enough
you
of those.
really need to read Hercules.
Do I though?
Yes.
he also has his
it's
own-
such a good book.
Yeah.
Why do you say it like that?
I don't know. I mean, you and I don't necessarily see eye to eye on everything, though.
Sure, I realize that, but like, do you doubt my taste in comic books?
I don't doubt your taste in comic books, but I think sometimes we can latch on to different aspects of
Sure,
comic
like
books.
I like Planet Hulk more than like you think it's a piece of garbage, but
I don't know if I'd go that far.
like
It didn't work for me.
fine, you're
That-
wrong.
I didn't call it
But-
a piece of garbage.
But
That'd
like
be a
the
little excessive.
Greg Pak's Incredible Hercules run, which
or
introduced.
Hercules. There you go.
Well, it started out as Incredible Hulk, and then it kind of shifted over into Incredible Herc. But that introduced Amadeus Cho as kind of. I mean, he's become his own character,
Yeah.
like moving forward, and now he is the Hulk. In
yes.
Post Secret War.
Yeah,
but he
because
was,
nobody's who they used to be.
Yeah, it's all new, all different.
Yeah. For the next like 6 months. Yeah.
right? Before everything snaps back.
Then everybody's like, classic Marvel.
I don't know. I think we'll have Old Man Logan until the Old Man Logan movie comes out.
Yeah, that one feels like that was calculated.
But yeah, Amadeus Cho is a really fun character, like a super genius teamed up with
Yeah.
a like big muscly guy is always a fun combo.
But do you think he's the sidekick to her?
I think he started out that way. He
Mm-hmm.
definitely like had a lot more of his own agency from the get go, and as that series like goes on, there's actually a big plot point as them kind of splitting up and finding who they are without the partnership.
Mm-hmm. Well, because there have been a lot of books kind of like that. Well, because I mean they're sort of on the road together to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean you can look at putting that then too. I have to reference it because I reference it all the time. Hard Traveling Heroes.
Sure.
Certainly neither
Oh,
one is a sidekick
yeah.
there, or like a Cable and Deadpool. You're not
Cable
really-
and Deadpool is very similar. Yeah,
You're not. But I mean, do you look at either one of them as a sidekick to each other? Is Deadpool a sidekick to Cable?
almost.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Somebody's got. You kind of got to wrangle Deadpool.
Yeah,
It's like
her-
Cable's the one to do it.
Well, doesn't Deadpool kind of have some sidekicks?
A little bit here and there. He definitely has like a pool of people who are closely associated with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd other than maybe like Bob, the agent of Hydra. I don't necessarily know if I'd call any of them sidekicks per se.
Right.
Like Weasel's another character who's like constantly around
Yep.
Deadpool, but most of them are just like, oh, why do we hang around with this idiot?
Mm-hmm.
Very few of them are like following his lead, and like they'll help him out occasionally, but I don't. But then we get into the whole Deadpool core thing, and there's like whole different variations of the multiversal Deadpools, and it gets really out there
for sure.
Get Headpool, Dogpool, Deadpool Kid.
Yeah, I mean there's where you get into the Marvel stuff,
Right?
They don't have sidekicks, but they have lots of different versions of stuff and weird
sure.
realities, and
I love the multiverse.
which DC also has their share of multiverse.
That's
stuff.
true.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting as you bring that up, like these sort of books, the sort of like buddy books, if you will, or like these that has become its own thing, sort of like two heroes on the road.
Oh, I mean that's been a thing since like Green Arrow, Green Lantern. I feel
Hard
like
traveling heroes.
that's you go back to those, or even Batman, Superman, like
World's finest.
right.
Yeah.
That's an old tradition in comics is two heroes, kind of like the more long running team up book, I guess. But I mean, there is a definite place for them being on the road, going through an
Right,
adventure.
but those are a lot different than a sidekick scenario, I feel
Right.
like, for the most part. Cool. Anything else anybody wants to say about sidekicks? We covered it.
I mean,
For now.
within the realm of comic books, I feel like there is room for sidekicks. I don't think any of our sentiments is get rid of sidekicks.
No, I think it's kind of. I think initially they went a little crazy for him, but I think it kind of shook out there for a second and has settled into those who stuck around, and those who didn't are gone.
Again, I feel like they're more present on the DC side, especially in like I can't think of a modern Marvel sidekick.
That's actually around as a sidekick.
Right.
Yeah, you're probably right. I can't
I
think of
can't
anybody
think of one off
my
the top of my head. You're right. Groot?
No, he's not really.
No.
They're a team. Oh, to Rocket, you mean? No, they're partners. I don't really see
Okay.
them as a.
They're hetero life mates.
Yeah, I mean, even though Groot doesn't talk,
He does
beyond saying I'm Groot.
I am Groot.
I don't get the sense necessarily that he's like following Rocket.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he could say no.
Well, he could say I am Groot.
Yeah, he could say I'm Groot, but in a negative sense, and go off on his own if he wanted to. It
Sure.
might be tough. They just dig each other a lot. Cool. So if you want to tell us about some of your favorite sidekicks, you can find us on Twitter. We're at Panel on Panels. We're on Facebook as Panel on Panels.
If you want to send us a detailed description of how we're wrong about sidekicks and how you're right about sidekicks, you can email us at panelonpanels@gmail.com.
We're also on Instagram and Pinterest.
Are we actually on Pinterest? I'm very curious.
That's the
Do we
rumor.
actually have a Pinterest account?
That's what
Yes.
there's been.
You're
some rumors.
sure?
I am positive
Okay.
that there is one that exists.
It exists.
Yes, we are in some developmental stages on a few new ideas, but yes,
We're testing some things out right
we're
now.
all go. We're in beta stage right now.
Okay, just checking.
It's in market testing phase, and we're going to put some focus groups together, see
right.
what happens.
Come on, bandits! Smokey's on the go.
And Donovan's
What?
lost it. So yeah, cool. So we turn now to the way we end every episode with our recommendation segment. We recommend comics we think you should be reading. And Donovan, you want to go first?
That was awesome. John just like shifted his eyes back and forth. It was like the Jeopardy Wheel of Death for a second. I read the first volume of Cowl by Kyle Higgins and Alex Siegel with art by Rod Rice. And it was really fun. Well, maybe not fun. It is really awesome. I will say that.
That's a fair.
It's not fun in the sense of like, oh man, I laughed so hard, because there's some very troubling things going on.
Yeah.
You're coming in towards the end of an era where Chicago has needed superheroes. So the city is kind of taking a look at like, do we need people with superpowers fighting superpowered crime now that there are not really superpowered criminals around? And it's awesome. The art in it is beautiful. The art in it is just like absolutely gorgeous. But you follow this team as they're kind of falling apart. A couple team members decide to go off on their own and kind of take things. They feel like they no longer have to be unionized or under anybody's authority, and they're going to take out all kinds of criminal activity by themselves. In the meantime, there's a couple people on the team that aren't superpowered, but they're really good at either like detective work or shooting, or the Hawkeye and Black Widow kind of equivalent. And the detective guy is uncovering things about Cowl, this agency that has terrible implications, and they're on strike. And it's a new look at like this 60s era superhero through the lens of like, do we need them? What does it look like if we had them? How would we control them? Are they, do they work for the city of Chicago? Should they be their own thing? It's pretty great. Also very tumultuous. Like it's not a smooth ride for anybody.
Right.
In this comic. John, you've read it too, yeah?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Anything I'm leaving out? I mean, it's
I
pretty.
think you got. Yeah, it's a great book.
It's fun. I mean, I said it again. It's
Well, it is fun. I mean, it's not. I mean,
it's fun because it's a fresh look at what's
not
going on.
lighthearted.
Yeah,
but it's a fun book. Still.
Yeah, and I mean, Kyle Higgins wrote some of my favorite Nightwing stuff ever.
Great
He's
Nightwing
done
stuff. He's been doing Batman Beyond.
Batman Beyond.
He's going to be doing the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yes,
comic.
yes. Could not be more excited
Yeah.
about that. So he's a great
Did
writer.
not think I would want to
like-
read that, but I now will definitely be reading that. So.
I really enjoyed this read, and
He was a filmmaker, or he's still a filmmaker, and this actually started out as a short film project.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, which I
But,
believe you can track down online somewhere.
but it was like I said, I had a good time reading it, so I recommend Cowl, spelled like cowl.
It's an acronym, right? Though.
Yep. Don't ask me what it is.
Okay, I don't remember either.
I
but-
mean, I know what it is, but you should look it up on your own.
That's
so
what-
that
yeah.
I'm empowering you to learn.
Because if I told you, I'd have to kill you.
yeah, that's what all my teachers are always like. Well, why don't you look it up? I'm empowering you to learn.
yeah, cool. Gorgoni, what do you got?
I've got a book about a man who is no one's sidekick, and that is Magneto.
Well, didn't we just learn everyone is his?
Everyone is Magneto's sidekick, and this book definitely underscores that
Yeah.
thought. This is Cullen Bunn's run on Magneto.
We're big Cullen Bunn fans on this.
This run is amazing.
Art is by Gabriel Hernandez Walta and Javier Fernandez.
Yep.
Do a split
Great
of the
stuff.
art within the first trade. And this is about Magneto roaming around the country, tracking down people who are messing with mutants and really messing up their day.
Yep.
The first
Raining on people's parades.
Oh, in a big bad way. And this is post some of the X-Men versus Avengers
Yep.
stuff, so his powers are a little messed up.
Yep.
But the big shift in this book is kind of that slow, inevitable burn. We know Magneto's gonna come back to full power at some point. He knows he's gonna come back to full power at some point, and when that happens, he is gonna have to cut loose and just go hog wild on some of these people. Because he's tracking down people who are doing hate crimes against mutants.
Yep.
He's tracking down people who are trying to restart the Sentinel program.
People who've got it coming, basically.
According to Magneto, they've got it coming.
He becomes the Punisher.
A little bit, yeah.
He's
And it's
kind of mutant Punisher. Yeah.
This is another one of those books that's I wouldn't describe it as fun. It is an intense thrill ride, though.
Yeah.
The first couple of pages have him really messing somebody up with some telephone poles that is just horrifying.
Yeah, it can still be fun though, guys. It doesn't have to. Like I said, lighthearted and fun don't necessarily go together.
Sure, I
all
don't
the
know if I
time.
would necessarily call this book fun, though.
It's an entertaining read.
I
It's entertaining.
would call it enthralling, is what I would call it.
Okay.
I am riveted by the page. I'm not going, whee, as I read it.
I've never done that with anything.
I
no.
do it every
Oh.
once in a while.
You guys haven't read Bandette, that's why.
Whee! From
Yeah.
page flip to page flip.
Honestly.
Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
Whee! Page
But yeah, no,
three.
it is a very intense
Yeah, oh,
book,
no,
and
it's
I
a-
really enjoy it.
It's a great book. I think I don't think anybody else has recommended, but I've definitely mentioned it a couple times on the show before.
You have recommended, I think.
Did I?
Like episode 4 or something.
Sure. who
Anyway,
knows?
then it's
But nobody's listening to
it's
that.
It's a re-recommendationing then.
Yeah.
The re-recommendation it has
It was
begun.
an alley-oop. John threw it up, and
Yep,
Gorgoni's
and
slamming it down.
in. But yeah, Cullen Bunn's
Now it's
run
got the
on.
Gorgoni seal of approval.
Well, you know what the Gorgoni seal of approval is. If
a-
a character jumps away
from
or
an
ducks under an
explosion.
explosion.
Yeah.
And that definitely happens in this book.
Yep.
It's mostly Magneto just badass walking away from explosions
Yep.
that he causes, so it's even better.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's true.
And just sometimes pages of his carnage. I mean, just
Oh.
well, that guy's dead. That guy's dead.
Creative
Those people are
uses
dead.
of magnetism, really thinking through how you can mess somebody
I'm
up with
just sad-
specific powers,
Yeah.
is something that I feel like this book excels at in some very ooh kind of ways.
It's well thought and brutal.
But they have yet to use his magnetic personality as one of the powers.
That's
to take him down.
dumb.
So
Okay,
Silver Age.
Back in the Silver Age, what magnetism did was very up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's mostly just controlling metal, John.
I'm just waiting for somebody to return to that Magneto.
And the
That's my Magneto.
That's your Magneto.
the trade that you have here, Gorgoni, it's
cover is amazing.
He's on the cover, and it's just barbed wire, kind of mimicking the helmet that he wears.
Making kind of the outline of the helmet, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's such a cool image.
Great look, yeah.
But yeah, Cullen Bunn's run on Magneto. Highly recommend.
Very cool.
John, what do you got?
My recommendation this week is a book called Aliens versus Parker. I will call this a fun book because
All right.
it's a really funny book.
Will I go, wee?
I think you will. It's written by actually a fellow podcaster, Paul Scheer,
Oh, shit.
who people may know from his.
You say that like we're peers.
We are. He has a podcast.
I would consider him the upper echelon.
All right, whatever. He's a podcaster. People should check out his podcast. How Did This Get Made?
Sure, yeah.
But people should also know Paul Scheer is a comic book fan. It's also by Nick Giovanetti and Manuel Bracci. Bracci? I don't know.
Continuing the fine tradition of messing up people's name on Panel on Panels.
Yes. But this is a super fun book about people who are basically like space cargo, like delivery people, or to some extent, I don't know.
Smugglers?
No, they work for a company that they just unload boxes.
It's like
basically,
Futurama.
a little bit like that, yeah. Like, but they're just the manual labor people who unload things off of spaceships,
Sure,
and go places. But then
they're space porters.
Yeah, but of course, then they get into a situation where there are actual aliens and trouble, and oh boy, these are not the guys to handle it. Is the thing. But Parker, our main character, is trying to impress the beautiful woman who's hired them to unload these things. So he sort of puts on the persona of an action hero, but mainly only through what he's learned from video games and movies about what an action hero should be.
Nice.
It's super fun. Paul Scheer is obviously a big pop culture junkie like myself, so there's tons of references to movies and stuff in there, and it's very knowing and winking and funny. And also, if you get the trade of the first volume of it, there's also a super fun short story in the back of Paul's show, NTSF SDSUV.
Oh, nice.
In comic book form, which is even crazier and funnier in comic book form than it is as a show.
Well, that's saying something.
Oh yeah, it's great. And yeah, no, it's really fun if you like any of Paul Scheer's stuff or looking for something that kind of blends sci-fi and humor. This is a book to check out. It's called Aliens versus Parker. I mean, right off the bat, you've got a parody with the title there, and it's a really fun book, though.
Cool.
And fun in a lighthearted sense.
Whee!
Actually, yeah, you'll say wee. Cool. So I think that's going to do it for this week of Panel on Panels. I've been John Campbell.
I am currently Mike Gargoni.
And I will always be Donovan Eilert.
Keep reading comics, everyone.